Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Suggs and this is Informal. This is a feed where I'm going to do that I can quickly get out information, mainly the weekend review and things that are happening. Just a good way of getting stuff done without having to do a lot of editing. And so I'm just going to go through some screens here. I'm going to go over a couple things like what is a shill, some questions and answers, and talk a little bit about Captain Marvel again, because everybody wants to talk about Captain Marvel. And so without that, let's get started. I hope all of you have had a great week. Today is Sunday. Actually, now it's Monday. And I hope you guys are having a great week. And feel free to comment and like this channel, what we're trying to do here. I'm trying to put more content out. I got a video coming out tonight with an interview I did with my buddy up in Maryland. I just got back from that. He is a law enforcement officer, and we're going to do a series with him to talk about misperceptions with police and how technology has changed things. And I also have a few movie reviews coming out, Bohemian Rhapsody and A Star is Born and Vice. I'm going to get those out pretty soon, hopefully by Wednesday. All the Oscar movies will come out, and we're going to be looking at some other ones we're going to do as well. A bunch of stuff happening here, but this is Informal. And what I like to do is just go through a couple quick things and then get to some question and answers. Okay, so the first thing I have really is, well, let's get to the question and answer first thing. So what happened is with the Captain Marvel thing, I was getting a bunch of requests, and I was trying to, and comments, and I was trying my best to respond to everything, but it was just kind of hard. But eventually I got to most of them, and I got just a few of these requests here. I just want to run them by you. I blocked the names out because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but if you want to go see, you can go check it out on my post on YouTube. So, and yeah, but so this first question here is from a guy named Jim. I blinked out his last name, and he basically says, why don't we watch the movie and then judge it? And see, and the person below says, shh, that makes sense, as if to say they agree. Well, this question that Jim posed is a question with a built-in assumption. Number one, he's thinking that we are judging the movie, and that number two, that we are not trying to see it for the sole fact of it's being a bad movie. It has nothing to do with the expectation of the movie in terms of it being good. I think many of us think the movie will be good. That's not really the question. The question essentially is, what's the climate that's come out from the comments that Brie Larson has said, and what has been the climate over the past 3 or 4 years with Ghostbusters and The Force Awakens and all of these. Well, The Force Awakens wasn't that bad, but it led into The Last Jedi, and we all know about that one. And how Lucasfilm reacted to the fans, how Rian Johnson acted to the fans, and how Kathleen Kennedy reacted to the fans, and basically calling the fans out and calling them racist and homophobics and so forth. And there's been a lot of other people in the community. On this channel, I'm not going to call people out by name, but there are several entities on YouTube, and we call them shills. And I'm going to talk about a little bit later what is a shill, that have made this process be even more cumbersome for us fans who love this stuff and don't want to see our franchises destroyed. And so here's the question I basically replied back to him saying, I said, we are not judging the movie as per its quality. People are judging the movie per whether or not they want to see it, for whatever reason that could be. Moreover, their lack of inability to speak out against said reasoning without being called a racist, sexist, etc. I had a little typo there, but what I'm trying to say essentially is that we don't necessarily care about the quality of the movie. That's not the point. The point is that people are judging the movie on whether or not they want to see it or not for whatever reason. They might like it because it's a superhero film. Some people are tired of superhero films. Some people are just don't want to see action adventure. Some people just don't want to spend money to go see a movie, period. And some people don't want to see it because of the comments Brie Larson made. That's the point. No matter what category you fall into of not wanting to see this movie, you're going to be lumped into a category of racist, homophobic, sexist, misogynist, and you're going to be virtue signaled out of the room. And you're going to be marginalized, and you're going to be ridiculed. And people are tired of that. Why should we spend money on something that we're going to be ridiculed at if we decide we don't like it? Or even worse, what if we don't even want to see it and get ridiculed? That's ridiculous. So if you tell me that if I don't go see a movie, or if I don't want to go see a movie, all of a sudden I'm a racist or I'm a sexist, that is ridiculous. And that's what we're trying to combat here. And so that was this question here. I think that answered it pretty well. Let's go to the next question. So this gentleman, or I can't remember if it was a female or not, but this person says, "Go, Brie, fight the oppression, fight bullies. Society supports you. Troll hating on Brie for increasing diversity, trolls hating on Rotten Tomatoes, stopping Brie from increasing diversity." I don't really know what to say on this one. The response that someone else said was, "You're a special kind of stupid, aren't you?" I don't really condone name calling, but I think what this person is alluding to is the fact that this makes no sense. Let's break it down by piece. Go Brie, that's positive for Brie Larson. Fight oppression. Okay, again, that's an applied something. You're fighting what oppression? What oppression are we fighting? Who's being oppressed? Fight bullies. Okay, who's being bullied? They want to say that people are trolling Rotten Tomatoes, or they were trolling Rotten Tomatoes. Well, that wasn't really the case either. Why? Because it was just a review to say, well, not even a review. It was an indication of whether or not I wanted to see the movie or not. That's not trolling. That's just acting on your desire to see or to not see something on a movie. So fight bullies, but let's give them that. Maybe people are being teased, whatever. So fight bullies. Okay, let's give them the first two: fight oppression, fight bullies. I don't think anyone's really against that. Okay, I'm not sure how Captain Marvel ties into that, but let's go. Society supports you. Okay, we'll give them that too. Trolls hating on Brie for increasing diversity. Trolls hating on Rotten Tomatoes, stopping Brie from increasing diversity. That is not even a sentence. So there's no complete thought there. For me to even go any further on that would be an exercise in futility. I don't even want to try. So that's kind of where that's coming from. So anyway, I basically said, in response to not the original post, but to the post to the person who said, "You're a special kind of stupid, aren't you?" I replied to that person saying, I would ask for, and this is, I guess his name is SI something. I would ask for SI's explanation, but I feel he is pulling our leg. So I think he's just trolling us back with that incoherent thought. Let's go to the next question. All right. So this one is, let me scroll here to the left a little bit. Okay, you can see it. So this person says, and this is a long one, but I'm going to try and read it. This is the internet's version of T-virus from Resident Evil, where one person gets affected, then the whole world burns like crazy. But oh please, Richard Pryor used to say racist jokes about white people all the time in the 80s, and you didn't see hordes of people attacking with empty threats of boycotting, but in fact both with people and black people showed up and had a good laugh at his jokes. And thusly, former UK MP Diane Abbott made a racist slur live on TV and nobody was in outrage. Some people should celebrate diversity, not attacking Brie Larson in horde mode. Hulk Hogan made a racist slur, not in a single outrage, but Brie Larson makes one. It's all red alert, everyone attack, and some people are twisting the truth about this issue. It's like Laura Croft takes the dagger and causing an catalytic event, but give it months time before you all will attack the next film that comes along. This is one big Illuminati here. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. I think essentially the crux of this is is that in the past people like Richard Pryor and people like him would say racist things, whatever. Well, I mean, they would use. They were not politically correct. Okay, so that was Red Fox. You had Richard Pryor, of course, and later Eddie Murphy, which is pretty much he was influenced by Richard Pryor and so forth. Well, the times were different then. We had Archie Bunker, we had the Jeffersons, we had Blazing Saddles, Airplane. We had things like this where people weren't hypersensitive over this stuff. So it's very difficult to try and compare the two. First of all, Richard Pryor wouldn't be around today with what he said today. You can't tell jokes nowadays like they could back then. So he's saying that in the 80s you didn't see hordes of people attacking with empty seats. No, because they weren't bent up and uptight. They were actually had lives and understood that this was humor and getting through a hard time as the civil rights movement through laughs was probably a healthy thing. People could discuss things without people getting offended all the time. I remember growing up with Richard Pryor, and we would say, they would say the N-word, and we would say, hunky or whatever that they would say, and nobody ever got offended. Now maybe the N-word, but that was what blacks would call each other and so forth. So nothing's changed for that either. So I'm not sure here. Then he brings up Hulk Hogan. Yes, he did say a racist comment. But the thing about this is, and Diane Abbott, I'm not sure who these people is, but from my experience, if you're a liberal, you can pretty much get away with whatever you want in terms of racist comments. I mean, we see what's going on in Virginia with the governor there, and Kramer from Seinfeld, and it goes. Ted Danson with blackface. And even the a legislator in Maryland was caught saying the N-word about a certain group of, I think, a town or whatever, and that particular thing was brushed under the rug. You have it goes on and on and on. It's not a big deal. So in terms of if you're a liberal, you're leftist, whatever, it's okay. You can pretty much do what you want. Reason being because they don't want to change that narrative that leftists can also be racist too. They want to say that only conservatives are racist, and if anytime they have an exception outside of that doesn't fit their narrative, they gloss it over. So he's conflating this with something totally different. I'm not sure what he means by Laura Croft or anything like that, but he hits on some points, but I think he's not quite. I think he's saying tone it down a little bit, but at the same time, doesn't change the fact that we have the right, and they were missing. I'm not saying his points are necessarily wrong. What I'm saying is that he is pretty much still not getting the underlying factor that we have the right to have an opinion, regardless of what that is, and we should not be shut down for that opinion. And moreover, we should not be denigrated for having said opinion. So anyway, that was that. I basically said at the bottom here, I said, thanks for your comment. It's more than just one comment or one actress. This thing blew up years ago. And it did. This is a much bigger deal than what he's trying to say for one movie. Okay, let's go to the next question or a comment. Okay, this person was being sarcastic or snarky, and so he said, I'm gonna see it once and pay 3 or 4 other shows just because white dudes hate it. Okay, so I said, fortunately, that's how freedom and capitalism works. So in the end, we all win. Have a blessed day. Yeah, if you're gonna spend money on the show and because out of spite, then that's your right. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, that money is going to be going to our economy and it's going to be recycled. Ultimately, all of us are going to benefit because Hollywood's going to make more money. People are going to create more jobs. Those jobs are going to create more services. So services are going to be producing more goods and products and so forth and so forth. So yeah, it feeds into capitalism. So, if you want to take this silly leftist or silly position that I'm going to be, because white people hate it, I'm going to go ahead and buy more. Well, you're kind of feeding into the whole thing. So I'm not sure that makes sense with what you're wanting to do anyway. So whatever, more power to you. Let's get into some more positive ones. So I got a couple, and by the way, these are pretty much the only ones I'd seen over the past few days that have really been questionable. But I want to raise these arguments because sometimes it's better to respond to these things. That way it's easier to articulate the points, and for me it's easier to see it because I can see it and respond to it directly. But overwhelmingly the responses were positive, like this one here. This one is, hey, new sub here, very well put together video. I will not be supporting this movie, or Disney for that matter. My husband and I will be taking our boys to see Alita Battle Angel for the second time in March. And we want our boys to see how well a strong female lead character can be portrayed through talent without bias agenda attached to her. And I totally agree. This guy, Philip, says, man, you make a solid video. Thanks, Philip. That means a lot. So I tried to comment as much as possible, and I got to go back and do some more. But thank you so much for supporting this channel, and thank you so much for supporting what we're trying to do. We're just trying to be part of a team here and trying to get information out in our own special way. And I enjoy doing editing of videos. I enjoy sharing my thoughts and feelings, and especially doing movie reviews. And I enjoy talking about what makes people excited. The whole Geekville with Star Wars and Star Trek, and I'm not going to do a lot of that, I don't believe, but with my conservative take series, I can kind of do that and just give a take on a conservative way of how things used to be done, and look at how things are being twisted when I do my review of that. So it allows me to add that element where I can actually be helpful with this culture that we have now that's becoming so divisive. Okay, so speaking of divisive, I mentioned earlier about shills. What's a shill? Well, a shill, and you probably heard this before, you may have heard the term, you may not know exactly what that means. Many of you do. But a shill, according to Wikipedia, is a plant or a stooge. It's a person who publicly helps or gives credibility to a person or organization without disclosing that they have a close relationship with said person or organization. Shills can carry out their operations in the areas of media, journalism, marketing, confidence, games, or other business areas. Now, what shills essentially are people who are going to do reviews or support, in this case, movies, because in the back end, they're getting some compensation. They're getting press passes, they're getting junket interviews, they're getting red carpet premiere tickets, they may be getting money. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but I'm sure you can think of a few of popular movie reviewers out here that are doing this. And a lot of these people have a high viewership. And so what they say is very influential, and their credibility is not well known to some of their viewership. Now, we who are following this stuff understand it, and it just makes our job much harder to get the word out, and it just makes it more and more divisive. So they have to do what they have to do. They gotta do what they do, and that's what that is. But at the end of the day, I think we need to understand what these people are, and be able to converse with them in a way that doesn't ramp up the temperature on the discussion. So I think as long as we continue to get the word out, I think people will flock to the people that are telling them the truth. Because eventually, if you're a shill, it's going to come out eventually. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be a review of a movie that's going to be totally crazy. They know that movie sucks, but they still say, well, it's also pretty good, whatever. And then they're going to realize, dude, seriously, you're on the take. You're not really being honest about this. You're just doing it because you don't want to lose that press pass. You don't want to lose those press junket invites, and those premiere tickets and stuff. So anyway, enough of that. Okay, so let me get something a little different here. And this is the last thing we're going to talk about. And with Captain Marvel, this is the whole main thing about this whole informal thing here tonight, is that with Brie Larson, her timeline, I had a video last week with basically how we got here, and many YouTubers have kind of done this timeline too. I kind of glossed over the high levels, but essentially Brie Larson was saying that she was, before the comments about the not angry, or sorry, before the comments of the white guy comment, she was actually had done an interview saying that she wants less white guys on these press tours with her. To, she wants to be interviewed by more people of color, women of color, more diversity. And she, on every single chance I've seen her, tries her best to, come out as the savior for black people. Like, well, black people are you guys are being treated so horribly, and I'm paraphrasing, but you get the gist. And you need more representation, and you need to this, and I'm your champion. And well, that's a whole nother video. But I think the reason next thing I'm going to bring up here is who is, and when someone should ask Brie Larson is, who is Monica Rambeau? And Monica Rambeau, if you don't know, is a character in the Marvel universe. And there's an article that I'm going to kind of skim through here. It is The Unfortunate and Obscure History of Monica Rambeau, the first female Captain Marvel. As you see, she's not white. I'll leave a link here. You can check it out yourself. This is from Gizmodo.com. This article is from, this is from 3 years ago, roughly. And so this has nothing to do with the current climate of what's going on. This is just someone reporting on what this was about. And I'm going to paraphrase because this gets a little bit complicated, but I'm going to read through some of this, and then I'm going to kind of say what's actually going on here. So Carol Danvers rise high in Marvel in the comics as Captain Marvel. It's hard to remember that she wasn't the first woman to take on the mantle. Back in 1982, Monica Rambeau became that woman. If you haven't heard of her, though, there's a reason. Here's the sad story of the Captain Marvel comics forgot. And so that's her right there. She got the afro. It's obviously the 70s, or getting close to the 70s. So essentially what happened was, she was a creation from Marvel Comics to basically capitalize on a lapsed trademark. So the Marvel Captain Marvel was a Kree alien. Kree is a life form that can change, whatever, shift change, whatever. A guy named Marvel, Marvel. That was his name. That was the Captain Marvel. And so what happened was, and long story short, maybe heard of Shazam that's coming out this year. Well, that character was named Captain Marvel. Well, DC didn't like that because it was just a Fawcett Comics was the name of the company. Started Captain Marvel. It was Shazam. It was Billy Batson, the little kid, and he says Shazam, and lightning bolt, bam, he turns into this really powerful guy. Well, DC Comics claimed that he was a ripoff of Superman, which he sort of was. Superman was pretty popular. And so they sued, and they had to stop doing that comic. So once that went away, Marvel said, you know what, that copyright, Captain Marvel, is lapsed. Let's go ahead and grab it. So they grabbed the copyright, created Captain Marvel, this Kree Marvel, but that comic book wasn't very popular. And so time went on, and later on in the 1970s, they ended up killing him off and replacing him with Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers. That's the same character that Brie Larson is playing. But she was not Captain Marvel. She was just another character. She was a spinoff of that person. And so with that, they killed off Captain Marvel in 1982, but the company still needed to use his name to maintain control because they didn't want that thing to lapse. So Monica Rambeau was a character that came out in the 60s, but prior to that. So she was already there. Wasn't really well used. She was just a character, in the 60s, in 67, I believe. No, what does it say here? I don't know when she was created, but she was created prior to 82. And so they bring in Monica Rambeau. They make her the first female incarnation of Captain Marvel. And she was never her own comic book. It was never her own deal. She was just there to keep the copyright in place. And so it looks like that Monica made her debut in 1982, Amazing Spider-Man, Annual 16, which featured her getting her powers and seemingly randomly deciding to call herself Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man encouraging her to join the Avengers so she could hone her powers. And she was actually the first black Avenger, female Avenger. I believe that is correct. So anyway, as time goes on, they eventually dumped her powers down because they were going to actually bring in, they were going to revamp or retcon the whole thing with Marvel. They brought up another person named Genisville, and who was Marvel's son, created from his father's DNA after the death of Marvel's lover, Elias, his comic books. And so eventually that set the way for Captain Marvel of the one we have now, and so Monica basically, Monica Rambeau, basically she faded out, and in walks the current incarnation of Miss Captain Marvel. So that was kind of convoluted and crazy, but check out the article there. I'm gonna put in a link in there in the description. But I find that very ironic, and many people have pointed this out, that here you have Brie Larson clamoring about how diversity, but yet, and potentially white, and they're also talking about whitewashing, like Alita and so forth. People are talking about this stuff, but no one wants to talk about the fact that you have this white woman who is basically going in the place of the original black female Captain Marvel. Now, of course, this doesn't matter. This is capitalism. This is freedom. Marvel has the ability to do what they want. No one cares, and it shouldn't make a difference. But I just find it really odd and ironic that that's out there, and I think it's really telling for the hypocrisy that we see all the time. Okay, so with that, I hope this has been entertaining. This is the first time I've done this, so I hope that you liked it. If not, well, maybe we'll fine tune it and come up with some better topics. But feel free to comment below, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'll try my best to look at all the comments, and feel free to like and share and subscribe to your friends, and let's try and get the word out, and let's hopefully we can start making a difference here on YouTube and getting some real content out there with not being influenced by outside forces, and allowing us to enjoy the medium that much better. Okay, so with that, that's it. As always, continue being awesome, and I will see you next time.